What's up, everyone, and welcome back to Uba's Trending Gist, the channel where we break down the stories that have everyone talking. And trust me, today's gist is a political and economic earthquake. Imagine a top opposition governor, a former central bank of Nigerian boss, standing on a major platform and not just criticizing the government, but actually telling them you are on the right track, while calling the economic they inherited a dead horse. Yes, you heard me right. Professor Charles Soludo, the governor of Anambra State, just delivered one of the most explosive speeches of the year at the platform. And we have got all the juicy details and analysis for you right here. So let's get into it. So Governor Soludo starts his speech in a very interesting way. Instead of jumping straight into the hard economics, he paints a picture. He talks about the old Lagos, the one with crippling traffic, the chaos of Oshodi before it was transformed, a time before the Third Mainland Bridge was even a thing. He uses this to make a powerful point, that despite our many complaints, which are valid, we have to acknowledge that some progress has been made. He is basically telling everyone to take a deep breath and look at the bigger picture before casting stones. It was a clever way to warm up the audience before dropping the real bombshells. So let me allow you to watch what he said.
After graduation, I was working at La Pal House at Coopers and Libran. Going through the traffic, and then there was no Third Mainland Bridge. And then going through the traffic and getting down to the island every day, or going through Oshodi, where you need to have a human traffic. You need to ask somebody to step out so you can put your feet. And Lagos of today, there is something to appreciate, that we have come a long way, albeit that there is still a long way to go. Second, I would disappoint many who would expect me to comment on the economy. I'll start by disappointing Pastor Oyemade. Or to use this forum to offer another, quote, blueprint for economic reforms. I have access to the federal government to offer my advice, if any, and this platform cannot serve the purpose. But let's be clear.
Okay, so he set the stage right. He got everyone nodding along, but then he switched gears. And this is where the gist gets really hot. Governor Soludo, a leading figure in an opposition party, ABGA, openly and without apology, endorsed the audacious structural reforms of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. He said these reforms have literally rescued the economy from the tipping point. And he didn't just stop there. He brought out the receipts, mentioning that international bodies like the World Bank, the IMF, and the Financial Times are all endorsing this move. This is massive because these are the same institutions Soludo himself admitted he made a living criticizing in the past. Just take a watch.
And I'm not shy to say this, that the audacious structural reforms embarked upon by the current administration of His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR have rescued the economy from the tipping point. The endorsements by the World Bank, the IMF, the London Financial Times, rating agencies such as Fitch, Moody's, etc., in my view, are well-deserved. Of course, many people know that I made a living criticizing the World Bank and the IMF. I made quite tons of money, criticizing even books, which one of my books was, they told me at the World Bank bookshop, it was their bestseller at some point. As governor of Anambra, I have even rejected a World Bank loan because of the terms. But on the matter of the trajectory of the current economic reforms, the World Bank and others, in my view, are largely right. Funny enough, when these institutions criticize the government, some people use them as validation of their own criticisms. But when the same institutions give a positive report, they are derided as, quote, neoliberal, out-of-touch institutions.
Hope you are still with me, because it gets even more interesting. After praising the current administration, he turned his sight on the past, and he did not hold back. This is a quote that has set the internet on fire. He described the economy that the Tinubu administration inherited as a standing dead horse. A dead horse, but the real fire came when he talked about the previous government's handling of public finance. He accused them of illegally printing trillions of naira through what is called ways and means. A move he says was pushing the entire country into total disaster and would have led to the mass retrenchment of workers. For a former CBN governor to say this so publicly is nothing short of a political volcano erupting. Just hear what he said.
In 2023, I had described the state of the economy when this government assumed office as akin to a standing dead horse. And public finance was about to tip from insolvency with potential catastrophic consequences, including possible mass retrenchment of workers and or arrears of salaries and pension. You see, when the previous administration passed the 2023 budget that had a clause that subsidies will end by end of June, it was an indication we had reached the end. You could go no further. There's a limit to which you can continue to print money, to do business. And the consequences of hyper or high inflation were just predictable. I'm one of those who raised the alarms at some point, and at some point I had to say to the regime then, with the then governor of Central Bank, and I'm happy to say this publicly, in one session, coming back to rule of law, I had said to them that this printing of money, illegally, printing of naira, if the CBN Act, the provisions were obeyed, there was no time that you could have had more than 500 billion standing as ways and means. None. But they were obdurately, illegally printing money, went to first trillion, 2 trillion, 10 trillion, 12 trillion. That was when I said at a meeting, Governor, obey the law or amend the law. The way you are going was tipping the economy into the Atlantic Ocean. And what he said then, the response was, come and imprison me. I am helping the country. I knew that that particular act of printing money, and they printed up to 20-something trillion and poured into the system, and you expect the exchange rate to remain the same, inflation to remain the same, and so on and so forth. That's a joke. Elementary economics tells us that that was the recipe for disaster. And we met it. So when I make the point that we had, if you didn't do the kind of, subsidy removal and all of those things that had to, or dealing with the exchange rate, nobody was going to invest with the multiple exchange rate regime and the arrears that were not paying people and so on and so forth. We had reached where the economy was just standing still, couldn't move any further. And you needed a fundamental rejigging for it to begin to breathe again. And thank God, at least we're here, but still a long way to go. So public finance is back on a solvency path, and macro fundamentals are recovering positively. Yes, there are still a lot more to do.
So what does all this mean? Let's break down the gist. First, the source is what makes this so powerful. This isn't just a random analyst. This is Charles Soludo, an economist of international repute, a former CBN governor who understands the system inside out, and a current serving governor from an opposition party. His words carry immense weight and give the Tinubu's administration a level of validation they couldn't buy with a million PR campaign. Second, he is basically calling out the hypocrisy of many critics. He points out that when the World Bank criticizes Nigeria, people praise them. But when they give a positive report, those same people dismiss them as neoliberal and out of touch. He's challenging everyone to be consistent. Now, I know what a lot of you are thinking. This is all fine and good, but the reality on ground is tough. People are suffering and prices are high, and you are absolutely right. The hardship is real. Soludo himself isn't denying that. His point, however, seems to be that the pain we are feeling now is necessary surgery to save a patient that was already dying on the table. He argues that the alternative was a total economic collapse. He ends by challenging the armchair critics, the ones who just shout, build road, give us light, without understanding the complex how. He is asking for credible, thought out alternative, not just complaints. So what's the final gist? Professor Soludo has drawn a clear line in the sand. He's saying the path Nigeria is on, though painful, is the right one to pull us back from the brink of disaster caused by years of mismanagement. But the big question is, do you agree with him? Is this a fair assessment of the situation, or is he, as some might say, disconnected from the daily struggle of the average Nigerian? This is a national conversation and I want to know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let us have a real, honest debate about this. Do you see a dead horse being revived or just more of the same? This is all the gist I have for you today. If you found this breakdown insightful, please smash that like button, subscribe to Ubas Trending Gist, and ring that notification bell so you are the first to know when we drop another hot one.